Hello, welcome to episode 121 of the Not Joanna Eggs podcast. Before I tell you about this episode, we are going to be going on a bit of a hiatus. We're both feeling a little tired, a little burned out, so we've got some personal stuff sort of going on. And we think it's unfortunately just the timing is such that we're going to be taking a little break. When we have an update on when we may come back, we'll sort of let you know. So, this episode we are talking about the 2020 Cartoon Saloon feature, Wolfwalkers. It is a delightful Irish mythology piece, like some of Cartoon Saloon's other stuff. It's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun watching it. We had a great time talking about it. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to contact us, we're on Twitter. That's primarily how we are best contacted. I, Robyn, am at lobster_writer. Tracy is at TC Troush. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk at you in the future.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Not Joanna Eggs podcast. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Robyn.
And speaking of which, the movie that we are talking about today also features a character named Robyn, and it's from one of our favorite animation studios, or at least it's definitely one of mine, which is Cartoon Saloon's The Wolfwalkers, which came out in 2020. Mm-hmm. The only thing keeping you from seeing this movie is Apple Plus, like getting a free trial. Yeah, I mean, I understand, but at the same time, you totally should, because it's a great film and you really need to check it out. And we're going to spoil the shit out of it. So please watch that before you watch this, because I don't want this to impact your opinion on whether or not to see it. Like, just see it. That's all I'm going to say at the start of this. So, we'll go ahead and get into a very brief plot synopsis just to give you a general idea of what to expect. So, Robyn, if you would be so kind.
Absolutely. So the very sort of basic core of the thing is in 1650 Ireland, in a town called Kilkenny, a young girl named Robyn Goodfellow and her father, Bill Goodfellow, have recently moved to this town to hunt wolves on the order of the Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell. Mm-hmm. An actual historical figure. And in the midst of this, through Robyn being sort of a precocious little scamp who really just wants to help her dad, she ends up meeting and then accidentally becoming essentially a werewolf. That's not actually what it is, but it's not far off.
I mean, it doesn't have the whole thing of like the silver bullet thing. It doesn't have it has to be during the moonlight or whatever. It's pretty much just whenever she sleeps.
Yeah, so it's realistically probably one of the legends that eventually feeds into the modern werewolf myth.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really hoping for the time when we start having werewolf and Swamp Thing stuff come back, because there was a brief time where it was just vampires and we kind of had mummies, but then not really, and then kind of Frankenstein, but not really. So
it's because we tried to resurrect the Mummy series with
Tom Cruise, right? Yeah.
It was, and it took itself so seriously, which is ridiculous, because what's joyous about the Mummy movies is they're camp as hell and they love it. Like, they relish in it. But we're not talking about the Mummy.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that, like, I think that when they did try to do some kind of a reboot with the Wolfman, that was Benicio del Toro, which great casting, number one, because he's got that look about him, like kind of feral, a little bit untrustworthy, kind of swarthy, but at the same time, but also he looked great in the makeup. Like, when I saw that movie, I thought it was still pretty good. Like, not, nothing as good as like the original one that came out from Universal in the 30s, but I'm just surprised that we haven't had a whole lot of other films revolving around stuff that's not vampires, but vampires are inherently sexy, I guess, as we've seen with Fright Night, where even Prince Humperdinck was hot.
God damn it! You're right, and I can't.
He
say
was kind of hot. I'm sorry,
movie.
He was.
I mean, he's pretty good. He's pretty hot in that movie, and that's from me.
It's true.
Noted hater of Prince Humperdinck.
But Chris Sarandon stan, because he was the voice of Jack Skellington.
Was he really? Shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How did I miss that? Wild. Okay.
Yeah. Well, anywho. Danny Elfman did his voice, so he overshadowed him in that regard, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's kind of a complicated thing.
Yeah.
But Wolfwalkers. Mm-hmm. So, In becoming a Wolfwalker, Robyn meets, I'm going to fuck this up, Mebh Och Mectira, I think.
I just call her Mebh. I think Mebh works fine.
Yeah, Mebh is, I'm not going to say that every time, who is a little girl who lives in the woods with her mother, Mole, I'm not sure how to say that.
I thought it was just like Mol, almost like Molly, but without the Y. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Like that.
Mole Mectire. She is a Wolfwalker, and one of the things we learn early on, and this is how Robyn becomes a Wolfwalker, is if a Wolfwalker, what was it like? So it wasn't super clear to me, the distinction, but if they kind of like gently bite or kind of like lick a wound you have, it can heal you.
Yeah, so I think the whole principle behind it is that it's like they have to, if they bite them, I think they die, but then if they lick them, then they survive, and then they become a Wolfwalker from that.
Yeah, again, sure. I'm not entirely clear on how that works, because we see a guy at the beginning get healed by Mebh's mother, who doesn't become a Wolfwalker, but then when Mebh bites Robyn to heal her, she does become one, so...
I think maybe it just depends on... Well, also, Mebh is not as strong in magic as her mother is, so that is also potentially
right, so maybe it's like a control sort of thing.
It could be. It could also just be that wasn't a thing that she had gotten to learn at that point. Like, they established at a certain point in the film that Mebh is trying to heal her mother, who has not returned, from trying to find them a new place to live, because the English... Or, not the English. Because the hunters that are coming from Kilkenny are trying to drive them out of the forest so that they can keep expanding the farmland. But it's basically Mebh has been having the entire rule of the roost of this other group of wolves that she happens to, cohabit with. And her mother is still there in her human form, but she has not returned in her wolf form. So hence all the alarm bells are going off, and she's trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and that's actually an important point, which is kind of interesting with the Wolfwalker thing, is when you go to sleep as a Wolfwalker, your soul basically like leaves your body, and you then become a wolf, and when you wake up, you return to your body.
Yeah, it's like astral projection, but for furries, and it's way cooler. So yeah, I'd love to be able to run through. I would love to be able to just like run through that forest with all my furriness. That'd be cool. I want to drive out the English. Is that so much to ask?
I mean, Jesus, just one day. Can I do it as an inordinately large raccoon? That feels.
Hey, if Pompoko can do it, you can. I don't see why not.
There it is.
I mean, that was basically the premise of Pompoko too. So less English people, but still expansion.
If you want to scare off colonizers, turn into a giant raccoon
and beat them with your balls. Because you got them.
Oh, I mean, I was going to say a stick, but balls also
They use their
works.
balls a lot. Anyway, the wolves don't.
I know, I haven't watched Pompoko.
Yeah, I mean, that movie's trippy. The thing that I really like the best about this, and like this is obviously a staple of every Cartoon Saloon film, is that the environments that they do are just so spectacular. Like, and this is just a motif that I've noticed with them, but I know it's deliberate, obviously. But it's this whole emphasis about, like, kind of like in a Miyazaki sort of way, about the inherent, like, goodness and welcoming and, like, the curvature of nature, as opposed to the harsh, restrictive corners of what the society is asking. Like, literally the town that they live in. Because literally it's a good vision. It's one of those things that's really impressive, right? The visual outlines. The visual language of what they're trying to insinuate with the cities, because they established this first with Secret of Kells, which is the town of Kells itself that is under the control of a very, I think it was Brendan's uncle, who was the head priest or minister or something like that. But everything about him was very regimented, very insistent on not wanting to like try to change his mindset about things. Similar to in Song of the Sea, where when the kids are brought to, I believe it's Dublin back in the 80s, everything about Granny's environment is very sterile. There's nothing inviting. None of it is linked to their history being on the island with the lighthouse. And then in this movie, everything about Kilkenny is that, like, I was a little bit surprised at how hideous they made some of the Irish kids for seemingly no reason, which I thought I thought that was a little extreme. I was like, this is not really doing them any favors, but I don't know, unless it was just caricatures of like the cast that was working on this, where they're just like, as long as we're making them look like us, then maybe the kids won't be offended. But I don't know. That was a little bit weird.
I wouldn't be shocked if that's. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case, right? Like we talked about this in The Owl House, how there's a character that's basically just like Dana Terrace's OC.
Yeah, a very obvious self-insert
Sona.
OC where she's 90% nose. Yeah.
Yes, easily one of my favorite characters in that show, but that's different.
But I do like that they have there's something about how inviting the environments are. Like, obviously the forest is going to have a tremendous amount of appeal just because it's so different from what, like, a sterile environment that they have. Like, the most that we really get to see from the city, at least from the first few, like, maybe 20 minutes or so of the film itself, is that we get to see the small cottage that Robyn and her father live in, the town square where they're constantly singing this song about enjoying killing wolves, which I was like, I mean, I guess, but, you know, it doesn't inspire a whole lot of faith in, like, maybe it'll be easier to convince them otherwise. But yeah, they'll come to that later in the film. And then also the incredibly hostile and sterile environment of the castle or the fortress that the Lord Protector lives in, which is just all right angles and harsh lines.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing, right? Like, it's not, like, I think inside the castle I would agree with sterile. I think the rest of the town is weirdly, like, super organized, super cramped, but also, like, dirty, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, even though the forest should be, like, quote-unquote dirtier, it's just so much more inviting because it doesn't have the, like, dirt and grime of the town.
Yeah, and there's, like, a very noticeable glow that's coming from a lot of the forest itself.
Yeah.
I mean, like, not just when we're talking about the visual effects of, like, when after Robyn is bitten at a certain point early in the film, when she, there's a point where, like, she blinks and then she can see this little projection or a path, which I guess is meant to be, like, the smell of Mebh that she can follow now that she's a wolf, so she can sense it. Because we see the same thing happen for Robyn's bird, Merlin, who I believe is a merlin, which is a small type of bird of prey. But yeah, I really just appreciated the amount of light and the contours that they had for everything. Like, there's a waterfall area that just looks like a big open loop sort of thing, which is really, really pretty. Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. It's every single film. They always keep pushing themselves in terms of environments and just trying to make the world look very appealing. Where it's like the city is pretty harsh, but you can still get a sense of the lay of, like, this is very much a lived-in city. So everything feels like it's old as hell, which is, 1650s makes sense.
Well, that's also such an interesting thing, right? To make it look both, like, kind of inviting and, like, understandable, but also, like, grimy and dirty and, like, lived in, as I really like that adjective, because I think I really like when something kind of, like, looks lived in. It's my problem with some, like, TV and movie sets is this looks like a house that no one lives
like
in.
It's very artificial.
You know?
Like, there's a certain amount of, like, it's too clean, it's too pristine. Like, there's not a noticeable amount of, like, sometimes you'll see, like, oh, like, here's a damaged broom, or this is, like, an awning that fell off of someone's house because something hit the side of it, stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
Let's go ahead and mention just the whole properties of what happens when Robyn turns into a wolf for the first time. So we introduce that Mebh inadvertently bites her at a certain point, but then she heals her. So then she will now be a wolfwalker whenever she sleeps.
Right. And so she, at night, goes out into the woods and meets Mebh again, and they start playing, and they develop this friendship.
It's very sweet. It really is. Like, because they basically ask, they basically act like they're just two sort of, like, butting head sisters, but it's all meant in good fun. Like, it's nothing mean or nefarious.
Yeah, like, it's super cute, and you get to,
like, Robyn needs to lighten up a bit, Mebh needs to get a little bit more responsible.
Well, and one of the things I really love that we see visually is, like, so throughout the movie, rarely are the pack of wolves illustrated individually, right? They all, like, have an individual head, but their body kind of morphs into this, like, cloud.
Yeah, they become like this weird kind of amorphous blob where they're all still moving together at once, but I mean, it's almost like they're like an arrow or something going through the forest itself, like almost like a trail of geese, but all of them are pushed together so closely that you can't tell their bodies apart.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's almost like the opposite end of storks, where you have all the wolves working together, except like they're both in both instances we have them working together, but in that instance they're kind of like interlocking and individual creatures, whereas again we lose sense of singular wolfhood in this, which I really liked.
Yeah, I also just like the den looks very cute. Like, whenever all the wolves are crowding around, they perform the patented Cartoon Saloon perfect symmetry overhead shot that it's become like a staple of a lot of things that they've worked on. especially in something like Song of the Sea, where like the opening montage where there's like an overhead shot of the parents and young Ben as she's singing him a lullaby. It's just really beautiful. Like just everything about this, just like, and the weird thing is that I believe that this was animated in TV Paint, because I know that Song of the Sea was, and I'm pretty sure that The Breadwinner was, but they all, at least most of Cartoon Saloon's films tend to use the same, most of Cartoon Saloon's films tend to use the same composer who does the scoring for it, which is Bruno Coulet, who, if you've seen Coraline, he did the music for that as well. He did Secret of Kells, Song of the Sea, and now Wolfwalkers. I'm pretty sure he did not do The Breadwinner just because the Irish music would not have blended as well, because that takes place in Afghanistan, obviously. But I do like it that it's a staple of their films, similar to how Hayao Miyazaki uses Joe Hisaishi to do most of his soundtracks as well.
So the central sort of conflict that emerges after Robyn becomes a Wolfwalker is, again, Mebh's mother, Mal, is missing. She hasn't been able to return back from her Wolfwalker form. And we find out after Robyn's father, Bill, basically shoves her into the Lord Protector's castle to work as a scullery maid.
Because tradition.
Tradition. Voiced, by the way, by your boy Sean Bean.
I mean,
Doesn't die.
Not initially, but he does die eventually. Not to, I mean, spoiler territory. We already warned you, but you know, but honestly, his voice is fantastic. Like, because it's both.
He does a great
He's
job
authoritative,
with it.
but he's growling at the same time. Like, it's a very interesting dialect that they choose to go with for him, because he's still, like, very condescending to Bill Goodfellow the entire time, where even though Bill is clearly, he's attempting to do his job, Robyn's trying to help just because she wants to be, you know, basically just like her dad. But, you know, it just doesn't end up panning out as well, and he's constantly having to just shut her ideas down and say, no, we have to do what he tells us to do because we want to be accepted into this kind of world. And even no matter how unjust it is, you know, like there's something about unjust authority in Cartoon Saloon films that just keeps coming back up. I like that it's a motif for them.
Yeah, well, it's definitely huge here because Robyn and Bill are kind of outsiders, right? Because they are British, whereas they're in an Irish town, right?
Yeah, so automatically they're a little outnumbered here.
Right, and they're trying to serve the Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell, which is...
I mean, it's a gig, but I'm not a fan of him either.
What can I say? It's a gig. It's a gig economy.
I mean, I guess ostensibly whatever he was getting in terms of compensation or maybe like land share or something, like whatever his incentive was to come over there, I'm sure he did it because he wanted to provide a better life for him and Robyn, but automatically getting into that kind of environment is pretty rough. So... Yeah,
well, and like, it's not super, I mean, it's definitely in the film, but like, part and parcel of the whole Oliver Cromwell thing is like religion and loyalty and subservience to God and stuff like this. And so Bill is probably being sort of pulled into that from the Lord Protector, because he clearly wants to do right by him, which you're right is probably a matter of doing right by his kid, especially since he's a single father.
Yeah, I mean, like it's tough to not like feel very torn, considering that a lot of it is just because like a lot of the incentive is coming from the Lord Protector just being as strict as he is. And I've actually got a direct quote here from there's an LA Times there was an LA Times article that came out by Michael Ordana, because there's a tilde on the end, so it means it's a nya. It's a nya sound. But yeah, so a lot of the emphasis for the reason why they were putting the Lord Protector in there as such a direct antagonist came about, like, I mean, this is like very transparently about like Ireland's awful history, really, like when it comes to how the English were treating them. And this quote is pertaining to this is Ross Stewart, who is one of the co-directors, along with Tomm Moore. Big ups to Tomm Moore. He's a really nice dude. I like following him on Twitter. But so the quote itself is, Cromwell viewed Ireland as being a wild land full of rebels that lived in the forest, ready to attack, and there were wolves there. And the fact that the Irish people believed in the stories of wolf people, all these fairies and legends, he would have seen that as another reason to completely civilize this country. So automatically, kind of a fun sucker, to be honest. You know, I mean, like just the
Yes.
idea of having folklore and stories. Like, I mean, like we as Americans have them too. Like, do I know if Johnny Appleseed exists?
Yeah.
Was Pecos Bill a thing? Was John Henry a thing? Probably not. But at the same time, it's still fun stories to have. They help to build on the values and the, ideas behind why you do the things that you do within either your religion or your creed. So.
Yeah. And like folklore is a super important part of like culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the basis of storytelling. Like I think there's a very distinct reason why so many of Cartoon Saloon's movies have centered around Irish folklore. You know, we've got Selkies, we've got the writing of the Book of Kells itself, which I believe was the first documented evidence of like a book coming together or something like that. I think maybe it was the first religious text that was ever committed like that.
I think it might have been that because the religion and monks is like a big part of that whole thing. So I think
prior it was like all the Bibles and tomes and Torahs and stuff like that were just kept strictly by the clergy or people within the church that were going to be using them to deliver their sermons, to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure. I think that's right?
Okay, so the Book of Kells is an illuminated manuscript gospel book in Latin containing the 4 Gospels and the New Testament. It's a very kind of lovely illustrated Latinate Bible, which is about all I can tell you
That's
about.
Fine. I mean, yeah, I just knew that Gutenberg's printing press, I think, was like 1050 AD, something like that. I don't know. It had been around for a bit, but there's just something
Yes, this.
Go ahead, sir.
This would predate that, right? So this was, but it was probably big for being produced in the Abbey of Kells, which is in Ireland. That's probably why it.
Yeah, like
So it's related to
the Book of Kells is one of the most cherished and oldest Irish texts pertaining to religion. There. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. It's just there's just something about. Because I really do like the progression that they have, like, because they show such a stark contrast between how Robyn and her father approach problem solving, where Robyn, like, she's trying to do good by her father, but clearly she knows that what they're doing is wrong. Like, the whole idea of, well, actually, do you want to introduce the twist that happens pertaining to the wolves? So when Robyn's working in the scullery and she happens upon a particular room.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. So when Robyn is working as a scullery maid in the Lord Protector's castle, she, at a certain point, hears a voice and follows it into this enormous great hall, which has this massive curtain over something on the other end of it.
As well as some very threatening tapestries, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Always. Listen, those tapestries tell a story, and it is
They were
grim.
weaved with hate.
Nothing but.
And also red dyed wool.
So she eventually follows that voice and finds out that the voice is Mebh's mother, who has been captured by the Lord Protector and also is a massive wolf.
Yeah, I want to pet her. She's big. Like
That's a dire wolf right there.
Yeah, no, seriously. I think like once she actually gets out of the cage, or like once you can see her out on they make a public square later in the film. But like once she actually comes out, she's enormous. I think she's bigger than Bill Goodfellow is, or very close.
Yeah, no, she's like definitely like of comparable size at least.
Oh yeah, easy.
Which is a full-grown actual wolf is huge.
Yes, they will knock you down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's what she finds out, and Mole tells her that you need to tell my daughter to leave me, that she will find her own place, and that's what we'll do. And she tries to tell that to Mebh. Mebh doesn't really take it. And so we get the, for lack of a better word, I'll call the Harry and the Hendersons trope of, get out of here.
Oh, yeah, like, can't you see I don't want you anymore? Yeah, yes, that whole thing, yeah. Well, I mean, like it kind of happens, but it's like Robyn genuinely thinks that pushing her away is like the best thing for her, so then she can just take the rest of the pack. But obviously, Mebh really loves her mother, and she's not going to do anything that will, like, she's not going to leave her behind. Clearly, she is a pack animal, so she wants them to be with them.
Yeah, and so she's going to attack the city, and then.
And the very grisly town square scene that involves the Lord Protector trying to bring out Mebh's mother. Trying to show that he has tamed her, and I'm doing quotation fingers, but you can't see them because this is audio.
Yes.
But yeah, like the whole idea of taming the mom, which is like, And then Mebh, I believe she sees her from the crowd because she's trying to approach the top of the stage to just be like, no, you let her go this instant or I'll sick the rest of the wolves on you and we'll eat all of you. And it's very heartbreaking because there's a couple of scenes where I think Mebh gets hurt by someone, or I think that Bill is told to dispose of Mebh for interrupting the whole ceremony thing. But Maul freaks out and breaks out of the muzzle that she was put into, and I believe she bites Bill, which leads to him eventually becoming a Wolfwalker as well.
Yeah, and and then this kind of sets off that. So they escape into the forest, and before they can kind of rally and get out of the forest, Cromwell rallies the town and the soldiers to go and burn down the forest.
Which was a great sign. And so it
ensues into this.
If it worked in Pocahontas, it works in this.
Yeah, shocker. You turn to burning a forest down as your first resort.
That's how you drive the soldiers out.
Mm-hmm. So then we have this big, long, beautiful sort of set piece of the wolves stalking them in the forest as they're trying to burn it, and man, it's just wild. It's so
I
good.
love that they take so many different chances involving the framing devices that they have. Like, that was one thing that they definitely upped their game with, where like there's one particular scene that has like this very cinematic, like it puts like the what is it, like the horizontal movie theater bars when there's a fight scene happening.
Oh,
that was really cool. They had like they would play with whenever Robyn was seeing something as a wolf, everything would get a whole lot sketchier. Like it would almost be like all the primary almost like kind of like pastel, to be honest with you. And very like light coloring.
Yeah, it was kind of like pastel-y,
like faded almost.
It looked almost like concept art.
It did, yeah. It almost looked like,
and it like in a way that's
like direct storyboards almost.
Yeah, in a way that's like really like gripping, right? And I agree with you. I love that. I think that was one of the things that really struck me when we first watched this was that particular change in perception. Because I'm just a sucker for that sort of trope of like, all right, so we've changed a thing or we've changed your perception, so now we have to like change the style of the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's extremely my
but
jam.
I mean, and it's also, it very much plays into how disorienting everything feels to Robyn once she's initially becoming a wolf, too. Because like later in the film, we see her using that as a tool, so she can identify paths and ways to get around soldiers to help defend the other wolves and try to help Mebh in any way that she can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all so beautifully done.
There is a particular scene where we do see that Robyn helps to escort Maul out of the city. Like, basically, she's riding on top of her in, like, what I can only describe as, like, one of the most uncomfortable rides, probably, but it looks really cool. Like, once they're running throughout the entire city and trying to avoid being apprehended or injured or anything, they make it over to a forest clearing to reunite Mebh and the wolves with Maul. But like, one of the most heartbreaking things ever happens, where turns out that Bill ends up shooting Maul in the chest, and God, the visceral reactions of all the characters. I was like, I think we all had the same reaction watching it too. We're like, no, like, damn it.
Yeah, no,
because they made it out, and you're like, are you serious after all that? So. Yeah, because Bill still doesn't get it, and he has to see Robyn transforming to understand and realize that, hey, dog, that's going to happen to you too, because you got bit by Maul.
Yeah, right. Well, and that becomes important. So there's so much visually going on that's all really good that it's hard to do justice to some of it. But that becomes important when he realizes it, and he fights Cromwell, and then with the whole wolf healing thing, the wolves can like howl to heal themselves or other animals, and so
well, it's mostly that one of the Wolfwalkers has to initiate the howl, and then the other wolves howling along, like all their spirits combined together have healing properties. Yeah. Yes,
exactly. And so we get that becoming a thing because obviously Maul gets shot in the chest, and it's not until even, I think, Bill joins in the howling that they can heal. Yeah,
because Robyn shoots a look at her father as he's transformed. She's like, come on, join in. And like from that,
you need to help.
And from that, all their spirits together help revive Maul, it's very sweet because man, there's a part earlier in the film where you just watch Mebh cuddling up to her mom, trying to talk to her about her experiences with Robyn, and it's just so sad because it's like she just wants to cuddle with her, and her mom is just sitting there.
Yeah, she just wants her mom.
Yeah, she's just so stationary. It's so sad. This poor kid. But, I mean, Mebh can hold her own in a lot of different degrees, but I mean, she's still a kid. I mean, like, I would say she's probably not older than about 10, if that.
Oh, yeah, no, I think I would, maybe, I'm notoriously bad at telling things like age and weight, but I would probably place her around 7.
Yeah, something like that. I would say, like, maybe between 7 and 10, roughly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair range. And then Robyn is probably, like, I don't know, like 9 to 13-ish.
Yeah, I'd say that. I was thinking about 12 for Robyn, personally.
Yeah, that seems right about on.
Yeah, it's there's just and that's the whole thing with the ending too, is that a lot of these things are happening concurrently. So the whole thing with Mebh attempting to try to revive her mother initially, she's struggling to do it by herself because Robyn is using some of the rest of the wolves to help fight against the Irish men, roughly, or the soldiers.
The
soldiers, huntsmen, whatever. Yeah, and that's the whole thing because everything's done concurrently, and then eventually they all meet up together towards the ending. But yeah, I mean, I'd say just like overall, there's just something like I know that when we were watching this with Meekly and Angus as well, and I think this really seemed to rock Angus to his core like quite a bit, which I was like, I definitely dug it, but I still think Song of the Sea is my personal favorite, but just because it's got it hits a lot of those beats for me. It's like seals, magic, water, witches, owls, But like there's just a lot about Wolfwalkers to like. Like there's no reason to not check this out.
Some fun little lore bits. Basically, Robyn Goodfellow is another name for Puck from Midsummer's Night Dream. And Mebh was the warrior queen of Connacht in Ireland.
Yeah, I believe...
which is the reference to the name.
Yeah, so hence the whole queen aspect thing to it, which, which is weird because you'd think that would be like an inversion of both of their personalities, but, it's fine. We'll take it. I mean, like, that's what it is. Like, they're just trying to balance each other out. It's all about connection. Exactly. It's all about found families, stuff like that. No, it's all about not burning down the woods because you got plenty of farmland. Just grow more than potatoes. Circulate the crops.
Yep,
that's what you got to do.
That potato famine's coming for you.
You got to circulate the crops. It's just you can't deplete the soil. You got to circulate the crops.
Listen, you can't put all your potatoes in one field.
That's true, because then those potatoes will be underwhelming when it comes to other side dishes. I like an asparagus.
I don't know.
I like a carrot. I like a parsnip.
I don't know that I've actually had like parsnips as a side. I've learned to enjoy asparagus.
Yeah.
Still working on carrots.
I like a Brussels sprout. Brussels sprouts are where it's at.
All right, so I know that Brussels sprouts, I conceptually understand that Brussels sprouts can be prepared in a way that makes them tasty and appetizing. Yeah. I have yet to experience
Just roast it. Whoever decided to boil them was a fool. All you got to do, just take some olive oil. So you cut them in half, take some olive oil, some salt and pepper, toss them in that. Make sure that the the inner side that has like the inner rings of the little tiny cabbage dealy-do, those have to be facing on the either on like a pan or a sheet pan or cast iron skillet, something like that. You got to put it in the oven for I usually do about 425 for about 18 minutes, and they are perfect every single time. They're so good. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna fart like crazy, but they're so good. Like they're delicious. I'm actually making some tonight, to be honest with you.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, you got to practice what you preach, right? But yeah, this message brought to you by the Brussels Sprout Council. Bruss harder, Brussels sprout. We're working on getting a better slogan. It's taking a while.
We're not great at it.
Yeah.
We're not Mad Men.
No past the Heinz here. No past the Brussels sprouts. It didn't resonate as well with our focus groups.
Listen, it's no Hot Pockets.
It's true. Thanks, Jim Gaffigan. Appreciate it.
It's such a good joke.
I mean, it is, and they still haven't changed a damn thing in over 20 years, and you got to respect that. They're like, we can't top this. We just stopped trying.
Yep, despite his scathing comedy, they can't fix it.
Yep, nope, they just didn't bother trying. Just Hot Pockets.
Hot Pockets.
Any other closing thoughts, or should we get into what we were watching?
I do want to mention one final thing, which is just in terms of the visuals, the one that struck me most, and which maybe I'll look at my background or something, is when Mebh threatens the town and she's standing on the parapet there yelling at them.
Oh yeah.
I think that like sent shivers down my spine or something. It really was just beautiful.
I mean, nobody wants to be yelled at by a child, but especially a wolf child.
Yeah, wolf child with tiny sharp teeth
and a hellishly red like sunset behind them. That's pretty stark. I do really like that how whenever Mebh moves around, whenever she's a human or as close to a human as she can get, she basically gets Amethyst's hair from Steven Universe, where she just kind of becomes like a little ball, just rolling up and then just running around. Like her hair is so buoyant and huge. Like it's really cool. But amazing. It's got to be a mess all the time. She's got so many sticks and things stuck in there.
That's why Robyn's got to brush it for her.
There you go. I mean, hey, who doesn't like getting brushed? I know I do.
Yeah, who doesn't love a good brushy?
Every now and then. Yep.
Even a nice little bat loves a good brushy.
That's true. I mean, bats need to be brushed often and regularly. Yeah. So what have you been watching?
Well, I have been watching. My roommate and I started watching Ink Masters on the Nerdflix. Oh, that was the other one. So we started watching Ink Masters, which is like fun if you want kind of like a if you like tattoos and you like trash TV, it hits both of those. One more than the other.
I mean, Dave Navarro's face on like the opening thing for it, like the title holder thing, does not really help. But you know,
I mean, if you're not into Dave Navarro, sorry, kids.
Yeah, I mean, you probably won't get further than that, but
yeah. The other thing we watched was Fate Winx Club Saga or something like that. It's this super weird adaptation of an Italian-American Nickelodeon show from like 2008, and it's terrible.
That's
but I watched half of it, so...
You made through half of the series or half of an episode?
No. So my roommate watched the first like 3 episodes, and then later we ended up watching the rest of it at the same time.
Gotcha.
And someone on Twitter described it as like Avatar: The Last Airbender by way of Harry Potter, almost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't...
I'm very tired. In a good way? Because there's some Harry Potter stuff I'm not crazy about.
Valid.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the entire existence of J.K. Rowling.
The author.
Yeah, the author who still makes money off it. No, it's fairies in a magic academy, and there's like there's like fairies have different types of magic, and in that way kind of is a little like the bending the elements thing in Avatar. And then the main character has like super powerful ultra magic fairy magic that she eventually accesses like at the end of the show.
Sick. Like right when the plot demands it.
Yes.
I'm guessing.
Plot convenience rules all.
Plot relevant magic. Got it.
Oh man, I love plot relevant magic. Too bad it's never plot relevant for me to use my magic.
Someday it might come up. You never know.
Someday my moment will come. Anywho, what have you been watching, Trace?
God, fucking so much My Little Pony. I watched
Really?
There was so what it was is that Kent and I watched this video called The Last BronyCon by Jenny Nicholson, where
it's so good.
No, it's so good. And then he was like, I'm genuinely kind of curious, because he's like, I saw the pilot, I thought it sucked. Can we watch some of this? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I introduced him to some episodes that I was like, okay, let's watch these. Like, it started with them. And Kent was out of town for a little bit, so he was watching some of them when he had some downtime. So he was just like, man, I like a lot of them. He's like, my mom really likes Applejack because she's from the South and she's a cowboy. And I'm like, yes, I agree. She's my favorite that too. But he's like, I really don't like the Cutie Mark Crusaders, who are like the little girl characters. Like one of them is Rarity's sister.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's fair because they're kind of annoying, but they're also for the target demographic. They're not for us, so I just skip those episodes usually. But yeah, God, I've watched so much fucking My Little Pony. But a lot of it still does hold up. Like, very much surprised by some of them that are still surprisingly pretty funny. Like, the messages are not that revolutionary anymore. I have a lot less tolerance for Pinkie Pie than I did 10 years ago, I'll tell you that much. I was like, God damn, she's so fucking annoying. But other than that, I still really like it a lot. I also watched this very depressing show on Hulu called Container Homes, where I'm not sure if you, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in, I've got a group chat with Robyn and some other friends of ours, but I happened to see the show on Hulu and I was like, oh, it's people that will buy shipping containers and make houses out of them, or like extensions, or like a fishing lodge or something out in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, I guess I kind of see it, but at the same time, the wives clearly never want them to do it, and they're always really pissed whenever they're doing construction, but the crew never pans over to talk to them. So it's just like, you just see like these husbands who are like, yes, it's going to be over here, there's going to be a koi pond, and there's like a drive-through like driveway thing, but then they do the final evaluations for the cost of everything, and it ends up being like $750, and it looks like shit.
I mean, it's, you know, you bought a shipping container and decorated it like.
No, yeah, and that was the thing, is that it's just funny to me that like the whole idea behind it is that they're trying to do it as like a more eco-conscious kind of thing. But I'm like, you could get a much smaller house and have a lesser carbon footprint than it would take to bring all this stuff over here for shipping crates for you to live somewhere in the Pacific Northwest in this weird, vaguely industrial, like kind of gross, almost like that one house from Beetlejuice kind of aesthetic thing. It's very weird. Like I just didn't really get the overall appeal. Like tiny homes, whatever. If it works for you, that's fine. But shipping containers just feel so industrial and gross to me. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
They always look weird.
Yeah, it sounds grim. Also, I'm just imagining people moving to the Pacific Northwest and essentially building like the stacks from Ready Player One.
Yeah, no, that's I was like, is this really the aesthetic you want? You want the stacks from Ready Player One? Like the instant I saw it, they're just like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to blow this out to make a huge open floor plan. I'm like, okay, but your heating bill's still going to be astronomical because everything is glass. So that's not steel. So why in the fuck would you bother building this out there? I don't know. It's just like, there were just so many questions. Like I was just sitting there. I was like, no, this is not for me, but I will criticize it.
But I don't know if I actually want the answers to them.
Whatever the answers are, it's not something I want to hear. It's just like, just say why you didn't want to just get a regular house. Like, was it because you don't want to be near neighbors, or because you're going to be doing a lot of ATVing?
The neighbors.
There's got to be some reason there. But other than that, I've been getting through Gone with the Wind gradually. I've watched it a few times, but I keep stopping it because I hate Scarlett so much. Because I hate how much she's got the hots for Ashley, and he's awful because like he's so milquetoast and boring. But yeah, I don't know. What's getting me through is Rhett Butler, and then knowing that he's eventually just gonna stone cold diss her is really nice. So I've got that to look forward to. So nice. I made it about another 25 minutes in today, so I'm at about an hour and a half. Just another hour and 15 to go. I'll update my progress next time. We'll see how that goes.
Tracy's Gone with the Wind watch. Didn't make a lot of progress this week.
Tonight, Tracy's Gone with the Wind watch. What you need to know. But yeah, it's stupid. But God, we're like 30 days away from March, and it feels like ages. Ugh, sucks. Spring is coming. I'm planting stuff. Got a lot of shit growing in the window, so at least there's that.
I died a little inside when you said March is so close.
Yeah, it's 30 days away, dude. Isn't that crazy?
I know.
But hey,
Wolfwalkers is really good. You should watch it.
Yeah, you should watch Wolfwalkers. Really good. Directed by Ross Stewart and Tomm Moore, 2020 Irish animated film. For God's sake, please support Cartoon Saloon, because I really want them to be able to keep making movies. And I understand that they got into a very tough place because of all the COVID-19 restrictions, where some of it, like I believe it was released into theaters briefly at I think around 2019.
Nope,
in some theaters. What? Oh, well, I thought they had like some kind of early release thing.
So it was released at
2019.
the Toronto
Yeah, I
International
just had it
Film
too.
Festival in September, ran theatrical in the UK October, here in the US for a bit in November, and then for some reason the movie about Ireland doesn't come out until December in Ireland.
Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe actually, realistically, what I'm guessing was that they must have had some issues with getting release stuff from Apple because it is supposed to be an Apple-specific film, like on Apple TV.
Yeah, but that weirdly yeah, whatever. Probably some weird distribution rights issues.
Yeah, I'm guessing because like for TIFF to get it first is very surprising. But I mean, film festival, got to get it in the fall. So
that's what you got to do, man.
Yeah, that's how it is. But yeah, please check it out. Please support Cartoon Saloon. Please support Leica because we really need more stuff that's not CGI. Like I like a lot of CGI stuff. Do not get me wrong, but I really like seeing other animation mediums like stop motion and hand drawn, or like just like all of it. You got to embrace
it. It's good.
Yeah, good storytelling is. It doesn't matter what the medium is.
Hey. Also, Leica has signed a contract with DC to do 2 DC movies, one of which will be Batman. That's weird, but I'm totally into it because it's still supporting Studio Leica.
Dude, honestly, I feel like that could be really cool because if it's... No, dude, like, honestly, if it's going to be anything like the action that they had in Kubo, it's going to be fun.
It'll be great. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That made it sound like I'm skeptical of this. I'm, in fact, the opposite, where I mean... Someone else has said this, but like look at Into the Spider-Verse, an animated superhero film translating to comics. It's perfect, right? Like there's no reason that every superhero movie shouldn't be animated because the affordances there are enormous. But shut up. It's great. It's for everyone.
But honestly, I don't think I know a single person who didn't like Spider-Verse.
That's
Even
what
the
I mean.
People that
right?
I know that don't really they're like, I don't like cartoons. They'd just be like, well, you're an idiot, but you should watch it anyway. Just be like, cartoons are for kids, and just be like, I hate to break this to you, but most of the stuff you like watching, like Transformers and Infinity War, are all mostly CGI animated. So technically, you've been watching animated films this whole time. So get past it. Yeah. Anyway, that's beside the point.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Tracy, where do they find you on the internet?
Thank you, Robyn. They can find me on Twitter and Instagram via @TCTroush. You can find my personal website via tracytroush.com, where I put all my art biz and stuff up on there. And if it's easier for you to listen to the show through YouTube, just look for Not Joanna Eggs podcast and just look for our head logo. They should be uploaded at the same time as they are on Libsyn. Robyn, where can they find you?
As always, you can find me on Instagram @LobsterWriter, on Twitter @Lobster_writer. I'm going to finally be updating my Instagram with the big piece because it's almost done. And cool. I've already begun planning like 13 other projects because I'm an idiot. So, there's that.
Okay.
Look forward to seeing lots of sewing from me in the future.
Sounds neat. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take care. All right. And we'll talk at you next time. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to another episode of Not Joanna Eggs. Our intro music is Don't Hold My Breath by Ben Briggs, and the outro is Wet Dreams by Phonetic Hero. Both were found on ocremix.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please remember to like and subscribe on whatever platform you use. Not Joanna Eggs, because animation is for everyone. Thanks.